in this game, I sacrificed a rook and was attacking for most of the game. So I'm excited to show you. And yeah, with that being said, tournament details in the description below. And I started out with e4, and he plays the Pirc, and I was really I was actually still devastated from my previous round loss. So in round one, I had a very heartbreaking game that I like immediately after that finish, I had to play this round, and for the first like 13 moves of this game, my hand was in my head because I it felt like I was hit by a brick wall, and so I had a lot of emotions in these first 13 moves because I was still getting over my first loss. Because like literally 3 minutes after round one finished, I had to play this round. I had to play this game. So, anyways, um, after knight of six, I usually like to defend the pawn by going knight c3, and after c6, I debated on what to do here. I know f4 is a main move because it controls the e5 square very well, gains more space, and you can go knight f3 next. But I know oftentimes they still go e5, just even if you play f4, even though you control the square very well. And the queen is going to a5 no matter what I do. So I debated on whether or not to play f4, and I decided I'm just going to play h3. I like doing this move a lot in other type of perks. Um, for example, in move orders like this, well, after bishop e3 and c6, I still go h3. So I was kind of trying to get a similar-ish position as some other perks that I play against, and so I just decided to play h3. It's also a less common move. Oh, not this move order. Here we go. Yeah, h3. I felt like it's not as much of a common move, so he's my opponent's like 500 points lower rated than me, or maybe 450 points lower rated than me. So I thought like it can't be that bad to just play a move that maybe he hasn't seen compared to the immediate f4 as much. So I thought it was a good try. He plays queen a5. This is like one of the key ideas behind the check variation, the check defense, the check variation of the Pirc defense. So if you guys don't know, yeah, d6 is the Pirc. D6 a move on is the Pirc. It can transpose sometimes, but to other openings, I mean. And okay, I defend the pawn. So with bishop d3, because right now the queen is pinning the knight to the king. So if I had played a move like knight f3, well, this pawn is just simply hanging, for example. So I defend my pawn, and now he goes for e5. Very, very common idea in the check variation as well. Queen a5 and e5, just carrying out the plans of the opening. And I decided to go knight g e2. And that's to keep this pawn flexible. I wasn't sure if I really if the knight belonged on f3, so I didn't put it there. I think now on g2 is very nice. It supports the other knight very well, and it supports the f pawn push in the future. He develops, and I castle, and he continues developing. It's interesting, like if I think about all of the hyper modern defenses I've played against, or I guess this is technically not hyper modern because he did put a pawn in the center. If I think about all the times I played against it, I don't usually see the bishop being developed on e6 very often. Like usually it stays on c8 because this bishop can usually become a target in some cases, and that actually what happened to it in the game. So I play bishop e3, and very very normal moves here, and he plays g6, and I just play f4. So I made my necessary preparations. I could probably have played f4 in this position, probably, but I like having the extra development on with the bishop on e3 already. And so I'm happy with my decision. Like for example, like pawn takes, knight takes. This pin probably doesn't matter on the knight, but you have to be careful. But this is probably totally fine for white, I assume. So I just felt like probably the more solid way to play is just play bishop e3 first. Although probably f4 immediately is a decent alternative, is my guess. I'm not sure though. So I play f4 now, and he decides to take immediately. I don't think he has to. I think he can just go bishop g7. Oh, wait, no, he has to, yeah. Well, I guess he doesn't have to, because I do get f5 in. So if he doesn't take, I do get f5 in. Doesn't look like the most pleasant thing in the world. But I think he has to take and then play bishop d5. And he's not losing a piece. Yet, at least. But his king side is very open. So he probably didn't like that. So it makes sense to take the f-pawn. Trying to think of any alternative moves other than taking the f-pawn. Like, do you really have to take it? I think sort of, yes. But already, it's been unpleasant. Let's see. He takes, and I take with my knight. And he's going to lose a bishop pair no matter what. So he just moves his other bishop. And plus this bishop, this light square bishop, isn't very good. So actually, even if he did have the option to move it backwards, he probably wouldn't. And if I take the pawn, it actually just opens up his f-file, which he probably wouldn't mind an open f-file. So I go queen e1. Queen e1 is a common move in positions where you have moved your f-pawn. So queen e1 or queen e8 if you're black, if you have already moved your f-pawn. It's a common idea if you're attacking on the same side of the board. Another thing that this queen move does, it is that it guards the knight on c3. And it does become relevant. For example, actually, I'll show you my next move. I play b4. And if queen takes, then I can go rook b1. But I was actually thinking about not going rook b1 if he did take the pawn. He did not take the pawn in the game. But if he did, I was actually thinking of going of d5. This was my main idea. If I go d5 without playing b4 first, well, d5, pawn takes, knight takes, bishop takes, knight takes, queen takes. And I just lost the pawn. But if I go b4 first, and after queen takes, well, now the queen is no longer guarding the d5 square. So I deflected the queen. That was my idea. So then after he takes, and let's say if he does want to trade, for example, I had to calculate these tactics. But in this case, it works in my favor. Because after knight takes, I'm hitting the queen. So he doesn't have enough time to take the rook. And even if I wasn't hitting his queen, he still couldn't take because I have this check. And then I have this. So I can have an in-between, Visionzug or whatever it's called. Have an in-between move to get out of any danger. So yeah, definitely d5 is very good. And if we just trade, well, he's going to be down a piece. Yeah, so he can't take the pawn a second time. So he has to move his bishop. And I was thinking about this position, and I was like, okay, this is very good. And look here how the queen is guarding the knight on c3. If the queen was on d1, so if I did this one move earlier, like now if I did it, well, now it's not nearly as good because after queen takes, this knight is just straight up hanging. And that's bad news bears, probably. And so that's why I did it with the queen on e1. So that was kind of my idea. So I thought it was a nice idea. And also queen e1 is also just a common move to do same side attacking. But in this case, I had a dual purpose move for queen e1, guarding the knight on c3 and potentially targeting the king side as well. But so he doesn't take though. And well, now I do the same thing. I go d5. And I felt very, very, very good about my position. And after pawn takes, I take here. And now he moves his bishop. And we trade. So now he has these doubled f pawns. His g file is open, which potentially, theoretically, he could move his king and move his rook over and attack me. You know, like call an ambulance, but not for me type of moment. But he's got my knights are, I'm going to get both my knights in towards his king, and his king is going to be kind of naked, as we'll see in the game. So I felt very good about this position, especially after knight b5. Knight b5, I'm attacking the queen, and there's no way for him to guard this d6 pawn. Like, straight up no way. I guess you could go queen b8. I guess. I laugh because that's sort of a ridiculous move. And I don't even know what I would have done if he did play queen b8. I wonder if queen b8 is the best move, actually, because it does defend the pawn. I actually did not calculate queen b8, to be honest, until, like, I just saw it right now. Yeah, that could be the best move. Maybe I'm probably still gonna attack him on the queen side though. On the king side, I mean. I'm gonna attack him on the king side. I'll probably play queen h4 and knight a5, or maybe rotate this knight backwards, or play bishop d4. So I'm having so much fun in this position, and he's not. So I don't have anything to be scared about. Probably rotate the knight back. Rotate the knight back and attack this pawn, and he cannot defend this f5 pawn actually. Yeah, this looks very good. So I play knight b5, and he decides to take the pawn, which makes a lot of sense because he probably did not want to play queen b8. I don't think most people would. So, but that does allow me to take the pawn, and now I'm going to take the f5 pawn. He moves the knight to a4, or to e4. He moves the knight to e4, and now his bishop is attacking my rook on a1, and I couldn't resist it. I knew that rook c1 is probably an okay move at the very least. Like, it's at least a good move. After queen takes a2, now I take on f5. I'm attacking the bishop. If he tries to move the bishop, I can either attack it again, or if he moves it back, well, maybe I can even, try to trade it off, or get my queen in. Everything looks good. I knew rook c1 was probably at least an okay move, but I was like, this looks like so much fun if I just take this pawn, giving up the rook on a1. But I don't think it was that good. I mean, I think white is still definitely better, but I wanted to kill him immediately, and I'm definitely still better and winning this game, but I don't actually think it was the best move. Kind of hyped myself up by saying I sacrificed a rook, but I don't think it's anything that special. I actually don't take back immediately. Actually, the dot here for like 7 minutes or 6 minutes, and I had 14 minutes. So this is a game and 40 tournament, and I'm an extremely slow player. So if you watched round 1, you saw me have a great position, and just due to time trouble, blow the whole thing away. It was absolutely awful. I get mad at myself just for thinking about that. But I thought for a while here, because I wasn't actually sure which move was better. Knight check first, forcing him on this diagonal, and then taking the bishop, or taking the bishop first. And now I'm literally threatening checkmate. Like, this is just straight up checkmate. So he would probably have to play f6 though. He would probably play f6 like he did in the game. And now if I do check him, he can still go to the corner, and maybe he can transpose like the game. Or if I go here, he can actually get out. So I was like, what's the point? Why am I doing this? So I just decided to go knight h6. I was calculating variations where if he went king g7, then I would take, and after he takes here, this is just going to be checkmate soon. The knight discovered check on the king, and let's say the king moves here, for example. We're just going to go check, and yeah, this is bad news bears for him, because he has one legal square because this rook cuts off the king, and now this is just going to be checkmate. So I calculated things like that, and I saw like, ooh, so he can't go king g7. Like, or at the very least, I thought king g7 would be inferior because f6, and then now I go here, and now I just gained an extra tempo. My knight already moved. Although maybe I wouldn't go there. Maybe I would go here, knight e6, and it's also a fork just for funsies. It's also a fork. But yeah, this is a great position for me. So I don't think the move order actually mattered in the end, but in the moment I thought for over 6 minutes about it. I went down to 8 minutes. He plays f6, and I play knight e6. And I think he does the right thing, and he does not move his rook. One fun fact about this is that if he goes rook g8, hoping to sacrifice the rook and get his rook on this open file and do a call an ambulance but not for me type of moment, well, I don't take the rook. I just checkmate him. That's cool. That's a cool fact about this position, that he cannot go rook g8, which is nice. So I think he did the right thing. Like, what is he going to do with the rook? Move it here? I might go bishop d4. Maybe. Maybe knight g5 rotating backwards. I'm not sure. But I felt pretty good about my position. I'm trying to remember what move I would have played if he had played that move. I don't quite remember. I was considering moves like rook takes, and if queen take, or and if knight takes, either knight takes, and I'm just gonna go bishop here. And I thought this was good for me, but I actually wasn't sure. I would have had to calculate it more before I played it. Looking at it on the board now, it looks kind of scary. I am down 2 exchanges. Like, what am I doing? I'm not down 2 exchanges. I'm down a rook and an exchange. Yeah. I don't know if this is good or not. I think you can just go rook here. So yeah, probably sacrificing the rook on f6 is not very good at all. But I thought about it. I thought about it if he moves a rook. I probably would have played bishop d4 if I had to guess. Or maybe reroute this knight to f5. I have no idea. But instead, he does not move the rook. And so he goes queen c4, actually. I actually thought he was going to go queen c3. And I was a little bit worried about that move. I knew for a fact that I would be better in this endgame. Firstly, I'm up a pawn. And secondly, I have this bishop that's very, very nice. And if he did play queen c3, I probably would have taken. Well, I kind of have to. He's forcing a queen trade because he's attacking this bishop and this queen at the same time. So after I take, he takes. I probably would have played bishop d4, and after knight e4, we would have had a game where now I gotta slowly convert this position. But I should be much, much better. I mean, my knights block out his king completely. It's gonna be really hard for his rooks to attack. And also, I could just take it. I can just take this guy. I can just not be down in exchange. But so actually, it would be a good question whether or not I would take the rook. I probably would take the rook, just so I could play this position more risk free. But yeah. So I was expecting him to play queen c3, but he never did. Also, I just want to bring up a detail from before. So, and about, I think it's, yes, this position. He cannot block with the queen on c3. Because I just simply, like after this, I simply fork. And that's a GG-yo type of moment. So, yeah, he cannot play queen c3 earlier. That is an important detail to know. And that you have to see in advance. Before you sacrifice the rook, you have to know that he can't go queen c3. Anyways, so he gives it back the exchange, and I take it. You could definitely argue that maybe I shouldn't take the exchange. But I took the exchange because, one, well, I don't have the most amount of time on the clock, and like I know the endgame is gonna be better for me if I just liquidate and I play queen d4. And yeah, I'm all in on the endgame and converting from here. We already traded a pair of rooks, and I thought there's no way. I was very confident in my ability to win this. Although, knowing me with my time trouble, anything could happen. So, I think he should have just accepted the queen trade and just force me to win. You know, just keep playing, force me to win. This pawn could be weak. And yeah, I think that's probably what he should have done. But instead, he did not take the queen. He actually took the pawn on a2. And he just forgot that his knight is hanging. And now he's dead lost. And that's the game. He still plays a few more moves. Knight e5, bishop d4. I was just playing very, very simple chess. I really wanted to make rook takes work. And I was like, ooh, rook takes. And then if his rook takes, then I go here. And I'm like, oh yeah, I am crushing. I am crushing here. I really want to play this move. And then I saw that he has this check, which looks very annoying. And after queen moves, now he can take the rook. Wait, why did I think this? I'm forgetting something important. This obviously still doesn't work. I don't know why I thought it did. Yeah. I'm not sure why I thought that. I'm going schizophrenic. I don't know. That was a hallucination. Does that mean this move is actually good? I swear there was some like queen check and it was not that good. But I can't refute it right now. Okay, maybe that was a more flashy way to play the game. But bishop d4 is also simply winning too. And I take And he does not take back. Instead, he takes the knight. And now I just rotate the bishop back. He should go back to g7, but I mean, it's still going to be lost no matter what. For example, queen e7, rook here if you want to go there. Now, bishop check. And if you move your king back, well, now we go check. And if you move your king forward, honestly, I did not think this far ahead. Maybe bishop check is bad then. Maybe. I'm not sure. Okay. But he doesn't go king g7. And I probably would not have blundered the bishop on h6. And even if I did, this position, given the king's placement on the edge of the board, it probably is still winning for me. Actually, I really want to think about this for a second. I'm really curious. Like here, this has got to still be... I'm not convinced yet that this is losing. Or that I'm giving away my advantage. This looks like a fine move, except it blunders the pawn. This looks like it could be okay. I'm keeping an eye on the rook. And if he takes, I take. And he has no checks. And if he moves his rook, then I can go check. Ah. Yeah, this is totally good for me. Yeah, I'm still definitely winning. Okay, anyways. Then he goes king up, and that's just checkmate in 2. And yeah, that's the game. So I think I did, I spent the first half of the game just absolutely depressed my round 1 game. But I think his setup was a bit weird with the bishop on e6. I'm not sure if b4 was the best move. I'm actually really curious. So when I press game review in a second here, we'll get to see what the engine says. But that's probably not the only. I have a feeling it's not the best move. Maybe just playing it slower and just play queen h4 and just continue with the same side attack might be best. But I thought b4 was definitely very fun and interesting, and it definitely got me a very, very good position. I don't want to say winning, but honestly, after d5, it feels winning. I'm interested to see if the engine can find any defense. Probably, but we'll see. And I thought I played a pretty relatively smooth attacking game, and I think he just missed his chance to get into an endgame only down a pawn. If he knew how bad I was at time management, maybe he would have just gone for it and tried to play this position 1 pawn down, but needless to say, I think I still would have converted this position. Anyways, I'll see you guys in the next one, and subscribe for more content like this. One small note before we go to the game review. In this position, I did not play queen f5. I did actually play the checkmate in 1, the checkmate here. So yeah, now we can safely move on to the game review.